This is Master Life Coach, Coach Mechelle Kennedy, Chief Curator of Embrace You Coaching. And here is our Thursday segment of Come Sit Down, Let's Talk. So, I have invited one of the life coaches in the Embrace You Coaching program to come. Let's have some candid conversation about boundaries. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Katrina. I am soon to be a licensed life coach on the Embrace You. I'm looking forward to speaking with you today.
Okay. So, Katrina, what is your niche, your coaching niche?
Good question. So right now I'm going to be involved with women empowerment, adolescent empowerment.
Okay.
I also want to do ministry
Okay.
and trauma.
So, how do you think coaching fits in ministry?
Coaching fits in ministry because when we do ministry, a lot of people don't know how to embrace who they are genuinely. A lot of times in ministry, it's always directed and told what to do. And it takes away from the authentic you. I feel like it takes away from who God called you to be. With coaching, being able to direct and encourage who is God calling you to be, learning who you are individually, learning your authentic self, it's necessary.
I agree.
It's necessary.
I agree. Absolutely. So, our conversation topic today is boundaries.
Okay.
So, when I think of boundaries, I think of gates. So, gates are designed to keep things in and keep things out.
Okay.
Gates are designed as a measure of protection.
Right.
So, when you think of boundaries, what does that sound like to you? What do you think a boundary is?
Boundaries is giving people access to you to a minimum, to a certain limit. And when I say to a certain limit, it's when if your direction or if your wisdom or whatever it is that you want to call that you're providing to me, if it takes away from who I am now, then that's a boundary that you don't overstep. Because now you're coming into my personal space as far as who I know me to be. And you're trying to yield me to who you want me to be. So boundaries is a good topic.
Okay. So, when it comes to boundaries in your life, what are some of the things you put in place for boundaries?
Starting again with coaching, I had to choose me first. When I realized who I am and where I'm going, where I want to be, it sets a tone to say, okay, well, this is what I'm not willing to accept. This is what I'm not willing to allow to enter into, to take away my freedom. It's a boundary there when you are allowing people or certain circumstances to take that away from you as far as your freedom. I set a boundary now to where if you're coming to me or if a situation is out of my control, if it's too heavy, I don't have to do it. I'm going to give it to God. Because if it takes away from my peace or my freedom, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need it at all. So that boundary is, okay, let me take a step back. Let me let me get a different perspective of what's really going on. Let me take a moment to grasp what's happening right now. And to be able to set a limitation on what I'm willing to listen to as well. I used to be an ear to hear a lot of trash. And I had to set a boundary for that. It's okay to let people vent, but it's not okay to be a trash can. And when I say that, I mean, if we're going to talk to direct towards something that's positive, where we're going after this.
Right.
Not to where it's going to be a conversation to where we're just stuck here and then nothing happens. It's stagnant. I had to set that boundary to say, you know what, okay, I can let you do this, but to a certain extent.
Right. So I've heard you say in several instances about limits. So it sounds like for you, boundaries are limits.
Yes.
Like you can come this far, but then that's where it ends.
Yes.
In relationship, it is so monument to set boundaries.
It is.
So when we do business, just think about when you get a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Credit card company provides you with a terms and conditions.
Right.
Those terms and conditions are their boundaries.
Yep.
So if you spend this much, this is the interest. If you pay by this date, then this. If you don't pay by this date, then this. They have set these boundaries up front.
Yeah.
We don't do that in relationship.
We don't. We neglect it. And it can be so bad. Because by the time you even realize that those were certain boundaries that needed to be set, it's already too late.
Mm-hmm. And like the damage has already been done.
It's already there.
In setting relationship boundaries, being able to establish these up front. I think a lot of times we become in relationship with people so quickly that we step over that step.
Yes.
Oh, I like how you look. We gonna hang out. Or we got some of the same things that we like. Oh, you wear your hair like I wear my hair. Let's be friends. And those boundaries are not set up front.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take the time to be intentional about connections, you can set those boundaries up front. Another thing that I have found is when we don't have personal boundaries.
I was just going to say that.
Like we don't have boundaries with nobody else. Because as we've learned as life coaches, the way you do one thing,
It's the way you do everything.
it's the way you do everything. So when you live a life with no boundaries, when you live an undisciplined life, like everything else in your life looks that way.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say that sometimes you don't even know that you need to set boundaries. A lot of people don't know that it's necessary to set boundaries in any type of aspect, whether that's even with work. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love what I do, but I have a boundary. When it begins to mess with my mental state, and it's too much, I have to speak up and say, hey, I can't do all of it, especially if it's outside of what I'm already supposed to be doing.
That's good.
So that's my boundary. My boundary is protecting my peace and my freedom, and saying whatever comes to interfere with that.
So when we take the time to establish what those boundaries look for us, we can easily depict to others what that boundary should look like.
Yes, sir.
I know one of the things for me is a few years ago, I went on this journey to self-love. And when I realized that in that journey, I didn't know what love really was for me, I realized there were necessary boundaries that I needed to set for others. But it started with me. Like simple boundaries, like I intentionally work a Tuesday through Saturday schedule so that I can have Mondays off for me.
Yeah.
When my feet hit the floor on Tuesday, it's nonstop until Sunday evening. But Monday, that boundary has been set because I've realized in order for me to be the best version of me, I need rest.
Yes, agreed.
Like, if I don't have proper rest, my spirit ain't right. Like, my mouth,
like it throws off everything.
my mouth is unchecked. You know, those type of things. So, knowing how to set personal boundaries will make it easier to set the boundaries for others.
And I agree with that. I didn't realize how important boundaries were. Like what you're saying, I didn't even know that I needed to set those personal boundaries. And a lot of things, honestly, that I've been through is because I did not have those boundaries set up. So I can't even blame everybody else. It's something that I had to take accountability for and say, well, you didn't set the boundary. They didn't know.
Yeah. And there becomes a point when we are no longer the victim, but we are a participant. And when we allow things to go unchecked, when we allow things to continue to happen without those boundaries, like you are literally participating in your hurt.
You're teaching people how to treat you.
And people will learn how to treat you based upon how you treat you.
Yes. Yes.
So when you set those boundaries, ask for what is acceptable or unacceptable. Like people don't realize that boundaries are set by what you don't say.
Yes. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So if I do something to hurt you and you don't say nothing, okay, so now I'm gonna try it a little bit more and you ain't say nothing.
That
Now I'm
was
gonna
me.
try it a little bit more.
That was me.
And you ain't say nothing. So now I'm just full fledged in it, and you are allowing me to hurt you.
That is so true.
I taught a workshop some years ago titled "I Helped Him Hurt Me," because I realized I was not a victim. Like something happens to you one time, you are a victim. Twice, you might
might
still
be
be
a
a
little
victim.
bit.
That third time,
And fourth and fifth.
you participate.
Right.
You are a member of the body.
Right.
And the thing is we're not taught those things.
Yeah.
So we continue to allow people, for the sake of pleasing people, for the sake of not wanting to feel
cycle.
Yeah, a cycle. For the sake of not wanting to feel rejected, for the sake of not wanting to feel abandoned. Like oftentimes we stay in boundary less relationships simply because we think that the rejection is too hard.
Wow. This is good.
To just
That's true.
The thought of not having them is greater than the thought of you not having to go through what you're going through.
That's right.
So you would rather continue to go through it rather than to set the boundary.
And I've been that person.
Me too.
I have been that person to where I was a participant. Playing the blame game. Well, why you keep doing this and that? Well, I didn't know it was an issue because you keep accepting it. I didn't set the boundary.
No. And the thing is as we grow, as we live, as we become more self-aware, it does give us an opportunity to change the narrative.
Yes.
It gives us an opportunity to break the cycle. It gives us an opportunity to change what the ending part of our story looks like.
And I'm telling you now that I'm learning how to set the boundaries, it has already begun to change. And it's an instant change. It really is. That is something that can happen suddenly. It doesn't have to take years, months, weeks. Once you realize, hey, this is not okay. I got to set this boundary.
Yes.
That changes everything.
Change is just one decision away. Oftentimes, we make change so much bigger. But the change is one decision away. Now, you continue in the journey, but to start the change, all you have to do is decide to change.
Yeah.
And you don't have to wait for a moment. Right now is the moment.
Right now.
So when I began to set boundaries in my life became less stressful.
Yes.
Like I'm a fixer by nature. I'm a fixer technically by employment. I'm a fixer by a business owner as an event planner. Like you take people visions and you fix them and put them together. So
Right.
I've often been the one that people come to dump. And they come looking for an answer. I had to realize that as long as I continue to fix it, you're going to recreate it.
And nothing changes.
No, you're in a cycle.
In a cycle. That's powerful.
You're going to recreate it. Because when you don't learn the lesson, you don't understand why you shouldn't get yourself back in it.
Yeah.
Like, you got somebody who always asking you for $20 for gas. And that one time you said no. and they give out of gas, I bet they won't try that no more.
I know that's right.
Oftentimes, when we are fixing people's problem, we rob them of the lesson.
Yes, I agree.
hmm
I agree.
We rob them of the lesson, so we've got to set boundaries even on the answers that we give. We've got to set boundaries even on the way we are so eager to jump and fix it. I remember me and you had a conversation, and it was like instantly, I was
Yes.
like, da 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 da, period, da 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 da, and then I said,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Like, you ain't even asked me to fix it, and I started trying to fix it.
That's me.
It wasn't even my place to fix it. It was like I had to check me to say, stay in your lane.
And I'm gonna tell you what I learned from that. In that moment, it wasn't even about me being offended because it was okay, but it taught me something. You first of all took accountability. Wait a minute, she didn't ask for this. First of all, if she asks for it, then I can, I proceed.
Yes.
With her permission. So to me, I was like, okay, that's where I go wrong at. Sometimes I be just ready to help. I don't even ask permission. I just be willing to just jump in there. And even though my intentions are well, what if they didn't need your help? They might just want to tell you what was going on.
Yes.
And then you done burdened yourself trying to do all this extra stuff, but they didn't even ask for you to do that.
They didn't ask for it. And then we get mad because we feel like I've done all this stuff for you, but then when I needed you, you wasn't there for me.
Ooh,
They
that's
didn't
so-
ask you to be there for them in the first place.
They didn't even ask for it.
That's
You chose
Yes.
to do it. Yeah,
And then we get mad because we didn't set the right boundaries.
that's right.
Another thing when I hear boundaries, what I think about is expectations. Boundaries help us set the expectations.
That's true.
I think a lot of times, even in friendships,
Yeah.
we don't set the right expectation. We don't even know our roles in friendships.
No.
Because oftentimes what you are to someone is not what they are to you.
And that's okay. But for so long, I've been thinking that it was something wrong with that. I had someone to tell me, "You are this person to me, and I'm not that person to you." But that's because I'm not. That's not who I am.
Yes.
I can only be to you who I am, and that's what makes the relationship work.
Oftentimes as life coaches, we don't realize how we set the bar at extraordinary. But we often service people who are ordinary. And it's like someone who's extraordinary, like you would be compared to like a gallon jug. Someone who's ordinary would be compared to like a bottle of water. So when they come to you, they pour their bottle of water in you. And you're able to help, you're able to guide, you're able to instruct. But when your jug get full, you go to the bottle of water. It has no room for it. It doesn't have the capacity.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure in relationships and in friendships that you are aware of what their capacity is.
That's good.
Because when we don't realize what their capacity is, we begin to expect something of them they don't have the ability to give us.
That's good. And I agree with that.
So we are gallon jugs trying to pour in the bottled waters. They can't hold it.
They can't hold it.
They-
And then we mad for no reason.
we in good relationships because we tried to pour our gallon of water into somebody
That has been my life.
16-ounce bottle of water.
Yes.
So knowing the capacity of those that you are in relationship, that's boundaries.
It is. And I think that's a win because it helps you and that person.
Yes.
You don't set an expectation where you know it's not one to set in that area.
No.
And that way you don't feel failed. You don't feel let down,
Dropped.
dropped. You just feel like, okay, well, she's not or he's not the person that I would go to for that anyway.
Yeah. And it keeps you from being disappointed. Every hurt is connected to a unmet expectation. Every disappointment is connected to an unmet expectation. Like you don't get mad at people that you don't expect nothing from.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, somebody you just met yesterday, y'all have it out. You be like, oh, it's okay.
Right.
I don't even know her for real.
Right.
But somebody who you feel like you done been in the paint with,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a different level
It is.
of expectation. So making sure like we have those clear boundaries, making sure you know who you can pour into, not just knowing who you can pour into, but knowing how much you can give them.
That's right. Definitely that. And I mean, that's why it's important to be transparent in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be real about who you are and honest about it, and know what you can do as well.
Yes.
We set the boundaries, not just for what we're receiving as far as people coming in, but even what we're putting out there.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes. And when you set that boundary, like it becomes a environment that's conducive for relationship.
Yeah.
I'm big on relationship. Like for me, relationship is like top of the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like relationship is above income, it's above revenue, it's above being right. Like for me, relationship is so big.
Yes.
And understanding the right connection in relationship, those are boundaries.
They are.
So there's this TED Talk video, and in the video, she talks about 5 people you need in your life. So in order for you to be happy, you need a coach, a mentor, a friend, a cheerleader, and a coworker. So when you think about someone who is your mentor, and this is one of the things we talk about all the time, someone who's a mentor pours into you.
Right.
They guide you as to doing what it is that they are already doing.
Right.
But a coach doesn't pour into you.
Mm-mm.
A coach helps to pull out of you.
Yes.
So when you think about a coworker, like that's someone who works at the same place you work at.
Mm-hmm.
So they understand what goes on in your job. And a cheerleader, like that's somebody who cheers you on. Like I have a cheerleader in my life that no matter how big my dream is, like she is gonna cheer it on. I could say I'm going to the roof. I'm going to tie 2 strings around my finger, and then I'm going to wave it over the other side of the room.
And she
like,
girl, you got this.
Go, friend, go. I'm going to be down at the bottom videoing you.
Look, I'm that friend.
Like, yes.
I'm that cheerleader.
Like this cheerleader. So I had a hard day at work.
Mm-hmm.
I done called my cheerleader, and I'm letting her have it.
Mm-hmm.
These frauds, these perpetrators, these perps, these calls, and my cheerleader was sitting there just quiet. I was like, what? I just called you back. She was like, okay. It wasn't that at that moment she wasn't being my friend. She wasn't my coworker.
That's right.
So she didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So knowing the boundaries and the capacity of the people that you are in relationship with is going to be pivotal for you remaining in right relationship. And one more thing is when we're in relationship with people, always leave room for reconciliation.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's big.
That is.